Why did I think this was a good idea? Yes, this is still a knitting channel. We're just doing something a little different today. This channel just hit 10,000 subscribers. When I started it just under 2 years ago, I could not have imagined it would get to this point. Yes, this is still a machine knitting channel. No, I am not putting this through my knitting machine, but we are gonna knit with it. Let me cover this and let it rest for a bit. I started this channel about 2 years ago with no knowledge of how to do YouTube or how to make videos or how to use a camera or how to edit video. But I went into it with this idea that if I put enough time and energy into it, it would eventually be successful. But it's already gone like wildly beyond anything I could have imagined. 10,000 of you, that's ridiculous. So, taking a step back from the machine knitting for today and making bread instead. I want to see if I can knit with bread dough. And I chose challah because it is intended to be braided, and it's usually braided into like these fancy designs. So I assume that it will hold up to the knitting. This is a King Arthur recipe that I'll link in the description. This dough has already been through its first ferment, so it's time to shape it. Just letting it rest a little bit after it got out of its bowl. The plan is to make I-cord. On the knitting machine, you cast on 3 stitches, and you knit in one direction and slip in the other. It's a way of knitting a tube without having to knit in the round. It's simple enough that we should be able to do it with bread dough. I hope. I haven't tried this before, so we're gonna see. I have spray oil in a bottle to help this process along. Before you ask, I did not make this sweater. This is a commercial sweater. I would not risk one of my handmade sweaters for this process. Let's try this. Everything's covered in oil. Let me take my ring off. I'm just going to start by rolling this up and then rolling out. And I'm assuming this will go something like, oh, what's that channel that they make the candy in Florida? Tallahassee Creations, Tallahassee Sweets, something. Anyway, they have like a big block of molten sugar and they roll it out into smaller pieces from the main log. Okay, that might work. I don't want to get this too thin, but I also don't want like a super chunky loaf. I need enough to get started. It's a good thing my upper body is in good shape. Machine knitting is more of a workout than you would think it is, but then so is making bread. I am not going to attempt to knit with needles, though I do have needles that would probably be big enough for something of this gauge. I am just going to knit by hand. So we're casting on 3. I'm just gonna do E-wraps. Nope, I need more than that. This is what happens when I don't test things before I decide to do them on the internet. So we have E-wrap, E-wrap, E-wrap. And then instead of trying to knit into the first one, oh no, the gluten needs to relax a little bit. I'm going to, no, they're not big enough. Ah! Maybe if we do this faster. Maybe if I keep it on my fingers. And then instead of trying to knit into the first one, we're going to knit into the last one. Come on. So we bring a loop through, and then we bring a loop through, and then we bring a loop through. Okay, that's starting to look like knitting. Let me try to keep these loops on my fingers. Okay, this is gonna be a struggle. Through, come on. Oh no, the dough's ripping. Bring a loop through, and we bring a loop through. Now that I kind of know what's going on, I'm just gonna frog this. I'm frogging bread dough. I think I need to put something through the loops to keep them open so they don't like dissolve, and I have chopsticks. So let's try that. Chopsticks. Okay. Not the nicest cast on, but we can work with that. And then then I want to, you know what, we're just gonna knit. We're just gonna knit. I said I wasn't gonna knit, but we're gonna knit. The spray oil. I might regret this. Why did I think this was a good idea? And then these should all get slipped back onto the other needle. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. And these chopsticks are way too small for the thickness of this dough. If this were like real knitting. Oh crap. Okay. We're gonna take off the barf and try this again. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and now everything is covered in oil. Okay, the chopsticks are too thin. Let's try a knife. Onto the back of a knife. Ho-ho. I'll twist my stitches a little bit. And then onto the back of another knife. Ah! Oh no, they don't need to be slipped. Okay. Back onto the first knife. Come on, you can do this. And everything is covered in oil. And then I just need to turn this around and then start knitting. Everything's greasy. Why did I think this was a good idea? It's gonna take me like hours to sort this out. Okay, so we're knitting. Ah! We're knitting. No, this is not gonna work. The stitches wind up being too small because the gauge of the butter knives is not big enough. What if we just tried to do this flat and make it all kinds of big and wonky? I know for a fact that I'm going to fold the end of this loaf under anyway, so it's fine if it's a little funky here, and then sort it out as we go. Okay, so we have E-wrap, 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 and then you come around. Actually, no, let's put you through there. Big loop. Come on, rush and join, rush and join. Can we felt bread dough? I don't think so, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, so we pull a loop through there, and then we pull a loop through there, and then we pull a loop through there. And yes, our loops are a little loose, but that is okay. So then we'll pull a loop through there, and then one through there. One through there. Okay, this is starting to look like something. Everybody's still on and recording. That is the hardest part of being a one-person production crew. Okay, put a loop through there, and then a loop through there. Then, oh, you're twisted. A loop through there. Trying not to twist my stitches as I go, but it is hard to tell. Then a loop through here. Okay, that is starting to look like knitting, and I bet when I turn it over, it'll look even more like knitting. And it's gonna be a weird long I-cord. But it will be an I-cord. It's coming together. Trust the process. It's gonna work. Just need enough length to get another row. Oh my God. I usually like to plan absolutely everything. Like I don't even start a video until the project is mostly done most of the time, just so that I know like what the story is gonna be. Okay, and this will stretch a bit. So you're not twisted. So we'll bring a loop through there, and then a loop through there, and then a loop through there. We have our loops. So yeah, I don't usually like to start a video until the project is almost done, so I know like what it's gonna be, and I don't like have to go back and be like, no, I changed my mind and decided to do something else in the middle of it. I have a bunch of ideas for future videos. Some of them I will get to, some of them I will not. Some of them are bad ideas and I might do them anyway. Not that the videos will be bad, but like it will cause me some strife to have to do the thing in the video. And then I'll just hide the gnarly beginning part underneath the loaf when it goes to bake. Okay. You go through there, and then you go through there, and then you don't get twisted. Go through there. This is like the equivalent of spinning and knitting at the same time. Because I'm like making the yarn as I go. I'm honestly surprised I have picked up as many subscribers as I have, because like the stuff that I really like, the super technical, like let's all write some code videos don't do that well. I'm gonna keep making them anyway. It's one of those things that I wish there was more of on YouTube, just like creative stuff like that. Creative stuff like that that crosses over with the technical. Of course, I am a software engineer by day, so it's not too big a stretch that I would get involved in that kind of thing. But like, okay, so the AYAB stuff and the knitting machine stuff just kind of was like a light bulb to me that like you can do this. Like this is just a thing that you can do, and I had no idea that it was out there. It's something that I really could have used in my life a few years ago. I've always been more of a creative person and more like interested in things that are a little different, but I'm glad I found something that combines these things that I want to do and into something new and I can contribute to. I am contributing to the AYAB codebase, and I am helping create more machine knitters, because the way we grow this community is by helping each other and by contributing things. And I'm gonna use my skill set and the things that I've learned to keep doing that. Oh my God, it looks like actual knitting. Oh my God. I think this is a successful project. Like, okay, I'm not gonna call it until it goes through its second proof and then it goes through the oven, but like, oh my God, it looks like knitting. It looks like knitting. Oh, there's an air bubble there. Pop that. Loop. Loop. Don't get twisted. Loop. The hardest part about this is keeping the tension, and I guarantee you it's not going to be pretty and concise across the whole thing, or consistent rather. I never know when I'm doing these things if I should vamp or if I should keep my mouth shut. I don't know how much of this I'm going to use when I get to the editing process. I don't know how much I'm going to wish that I had kept my mouth shut so it would be easier to use these segments. Okay. You go there. You go there. You go there. So I started this having no understanding of how to make a video or how to use my software or my cameras. And now we're here 2 years later. This video, 10,000 subscribers, 2 cameras, and external sound. Like this would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. And it's just like, I learned everything the same way I learn everything. I Googled stuff until I understood enough to make the things that I wanted to make. And then I just kept Googling. Until I learned the things that I needed to know to make the kind of content that I wanted to make. And like I was also learning machine knitting along the way, because when I started this, I'd only been knitting for like a year and a half. It's just something I picked up and jumped into and immediately was like, okay, well, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos so I could learn how to machine knit, and there was just like something missing. I had been following the historical costume community for a while because I used to sew a lot more than I do now. And as I was learning, I wanted to just like watch what other people did. Like I didn't necessarily want a tutorial because I wasn't looking for anything specific. I was more looking for like what is possible. And I wanted to pick up on those little things that tutorials never really show you, like muscle memory and the way that you make decisions and like the way that you do certain things that just kind of is obvious to everyone else, but not if you're new and a beginner. And all of the videos I could find on YouTube were like tutorials. You go to them for a specific kind of thing and they show you how to do that specific kind of thing. But I didn't want that. I wanted like generic, what does it mean to machine knit? How do you make these decisions? How do you do this stuff? So like I saw a gap in the kind of content that I wanted and I started trying to fill it. And now I'm trying to put more of my process into these videos. So it's like less tutorial-y and more like this is just how I operate. This is just how I do things. And I know I do things a little bit different because I draft my own patterns and I do it all in code, which is not familiar to a lot of people. But I feel the need to show that because it's part of the process and it's part of how I think about what I'm going to knit and how I'm going to make things. And then of course I make those patterns free to the world. Honestly, it is too difficult to figure out how to package up a pattern generator and sell it. And then like if I did sell it, I would want it to be as close to perfect as possible, and that would require a lot more time and energy from me, which I don't really have because I have a day job and like various other bits of life I need to attend to. But I'm comfortable releasing them for free because there's no expectation that it'll be perfect because like you got it for free. But I do my best and I try to support things when people have questions or they find bugs in my patterns, which has happened. If I sold them, I'd have to find a tech editor and I don't know how to do that. And do like test knits and stuff. Oh, that sounds like so much work. So y'all get the janky pattern generators for free. Oh my God, it's knitting. It's knitting. My arms are gonna be sore tomorrow. I'm gonna arrange this because like I only have a tiny little countertop oven thing because my real oven, which is behind me, is absolutely terrible. It doesn't have an internal thermometer and it doesn't tell you when it's preheated. And the temperature is often wrong, so you have to like put a thermometer in it and keep an eye on it as it heats up. But then the door isn't see-through enough, and the door doesn't like to close and doesn't like to stay lit because it's a gas stove. So I've used it all of once or twice while living here. I was worried about this being chonky, but it has turned out to be pretty skinny. I think I'm gonna like wrap it up into a round crown thingy. Everybody's still recording. Everybody's still recording. And now the bind off. We go through a loop. We go through a loop. And we go through a loop. And we are bound off. It looks like knitting. It looks like an I-cord. I'm so thrilled with this. Okay, so the starting point was a little touch and go, but the rest of it looks like knitting. The other side. Oh, it's been a little flattened by the table. Okay, so I'm gonna put you in the center. Oh my God, it looks like an I-cord. It's not perfect by any means. And I'm gonna tuck things so it looks a little bit better. I could like curl it up into a crown shape, but that's gonna take forever to cook. So I'm gonna leave it a little open like this, and then it's going to go through another ferment, so it'll get a little bit bigger, but that looks like knitting. It looks like knitting. Look at that. Oh my God. I am so thrilled with this. And then you're just gonna sit there, my little starter piece. Okay, this needs to go through another proof, and that will take I don't know, like 2 hours. But the secret to fancy, beautiful challah is to egg wash it twice. We egg wash it once at this point, and then we'll egg wash it once more before it goes into the oven. So let me prep my egg whites. Add a little water. Beat it with a fork. And then a basting brush. Okay. That's egg washed. And this is going to go back in the fridge for use when it's done with this proof. All right, now we wait for like 2 hours for this to go through the second ferment. I'm going to see if I can sort out time lapse for that because I think that'd be cool. I'll be back. You can see me, you can hear me, everything is good. My bread has proved. We are done with our second ferment. My oven is preheating, and while that happens, I'm going to reset this camera and we're going to egg wash this again before it goes in the oven. I can figure out how to do the thing with the stuff. Did it do the stuff? And we're going to time lapse the cooking process too. This is a new feature for me, so let me enjoy it while I can. So exciting, behind the scenes content. All right, let me egg wash this one more time while my oven preheats. Oh, it's beautiful. This is gonna be lovely when it comes out of the oven. I'm so excited for this. My tiny little roll has kind of grown into the rest of the loaf, but that's okay. This recipe was only for 1 loaf of bread, but it probably could have been 2. This is where I skipped a stitch. That's okay. This is my first attempt at something like this, so of course it's not going to be perfect. I bet if I did this again, it would be perfect though. I bet I could get the tension nice and even and solve some of the problems that I had with this first loaf. But we're not there yet. Must finish this video first. I'm going to call that good enough. We're going to wait for the oven to preheat. I'm really happy with this. Oven! Heat faster. Oh, and my countertop is covered in oil. There we go. There we go. How long does it need? Needs 25 to 30 minutes. I'm going to set the time lapse back up. Come on. Counter is gross mess, but I gotta get this working real quick. We're gonna do our best, okay? I am not a photographer by any means. Okay, it's recording. I'll be back. The bread is almost done, but this loaf is massive, so I need to take its internal temperature to see if it's actually done. Enriched dough like this is done when the internal temperature reaches about 190 Fahrenheit. My time lapse is still going. Can you even see the oven on the camera? Oh yeah, a little bit. Gonna check in a few spots. 6. Oh yeah, it is done. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. My tiny little roll grew into the loaf. Look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. It looks like knitting. It looks like challah. And there's my timer. Now we must do the hardest part of this whole process and wait. If you cut into fresh bread that is not yet cooled, it ruins the crumb. And I'm not going to risk that for this loaf, so I'm going to let it sit for at least an hour. And then I will get back to y'all when it's time to cut into this. I'm so excited. Can you see me? Oh, you got good battery. All right, we're back. The bread is cooled. It's time to cut into it and see how it actually turned out. Ooh, it's almost too big for my cutting board. The recipe was for 1 loaf of bread. I don't know how it got this big. Here's my loaf. I'm gonna break off my roll first. That's a good sign. Let me cut it in half. With my fancy bread knife. Ooh, that is a lovely crumb structure. A good color. That's some good challah. I don't know why I'm bothering with this part. This video was not about how this bread tastes, it's about how it looks. All right, let me cut into the I-cord. This is gonna be awkward. How am I gonna do this? I need a different knife. And then I can... Yep. Still looks like challah. Oh, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful and it's lovely and it's bread and it's knit bread. As expected. Very tasty. There's not a lot more to say. This came out so much better than I could have imagined. I was really hoping that I would get something or like anything and expecting that I'd have to fall back to some kind of like chain stitch. But here we are with knit challah on my first try, which I'm really proud of. I'm glad I got out of my comfort zone a little bit with this. Let me know what you think. Was this a successful project? Did it turn out the way that you expected? Is this something that you're going to attempt with your friends and family for the holidays? Because that would be interesting. While I'm asking for feedback, is there anything else that you want to see me attempt to knit with? I'm open to all kinds of unconventional materials. I am willing to attempt unconventional materials on my knitting machines, but only if I don't think that the material will damage the machine. Otherwise, I can do pretty much anything by hand. So let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like me to try. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this loaf. It's gonna be awkward to cut into as it spirals around, and like, there's only one of me, so I might have to freeze a lot of this and then come back to it later. But it'll make good French toast. All right, thanks for watching. Happy knitting. It was so hard letting this loaf cool because I was out in my studio space, which is just a converted garage. Actually, it's not even really converted, it's just a garage. And I was like out there editing and I would come back in to check on the bread every once in a while. And when I walk through the door, it just hits you, the smell of fresh bread. But I had to wait. And I'm glad I did.